In a silent monastery hidden among the valleys of Tibet lived a young monk named Pema. From the very first day, Pema appeared different in the eyes of the other monks. Not because he lacked devotion or discipline, but because he carried within him a playful spark that escaped the rules of silence and composure. When the monastery bells rang to mark the end of the daily work, and the others retreated into meditation or study, Pema did something unexpected. He danced. Pema would take off his robe and begin to move. Each step was light as air. Every gesture seemed to follow the rhythm of nature around him. There was no music, but the sound of the leaves was enough. This habit of his didn't go unnoticed. Some of the older monks began to worry. "Pema," they told him one day, "your dance is taking you away from the path of meditation. You should sit in silence, close your eyes, like all of us. Dancing is a game of the ego." Pema, with a serene smile, replied, "I do not dance to perform. My dance is my prayer. Every movement is a breath. Every gesture is an offering. When I dance, I don't think. I surrender. And in that dancing silence, I feel the universe dancing with me." But not everyone understood his words. For many, the spiritual path had to be strict, linear, made of silence and renunciation. And so, Pema continued to dance alone. One day, as usual, Pema stepped into the courtyard. He began to dance, letting his body follow the freedom of his soul. But after a few minutes, the sky changed. A dark cloud formed above the monastery, and the rain began to fall, heavy and sudden. The monks, surprised, ran to take shelter under the porches, all except one. Pema remained in the middle of the courtyard, his arms open to the sky. He didn't stop. He didn't cover himself. He kept dancing, letting the rain slide over him like a blessing. He was completely immersed in the moment. Every drop was part of his inner music. Dance and rain became one. Then, after a few minutes, the rain stopped. A ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, and slowly, a rainbow appeared in the sky. The colors stretched across the monastery like a heavenly caress. The monks came out of their shelters and stood still, watching the spectacle. Pema was still there, motionless, with his arms open as if he wanted to embrace the rainbow. He turned to his brothers and said, "Did you see? My dance made the sky cry and then made it smile. This rainbow is a gift of the present. Every moment is sacred if we live it with openness and gratitude. When we surrender to what is, even the rain becomes light." From that day on, the monks' attitude changed. Some of them began to look at Pema not with judgment, but with curiosity. They understood that for him, dance was an authentic form of meditation, a way to be in the present, to listen to the body and the breath, to connect with something greater without needing words. And so, day after day, Pema continued to dance, even when there was no sun, even when no one was watching. And each of his dances brought new beauty to the monastery, not because the things around changed, but because their eyes had changed. This story teaches us that spirituality has no single form. Not everyone finds peace in silence, and not everyone prays with words. For some, dance, drawing, walking in nature, or simply breathing with awareness are deep and authentic paths to presence. It also reminds us that beauty lies in the moment, not in what happens to us, but in how we live it. Pema did not avoid the rain. He danced with it. He didn't wait for the sun to be happy. He transformed the waiting into a sacred act. Finally, it invites us to recognize joy in the simple things. A changing sky, a moving body, a rainbow born from rain. Life speaks to us in silence, and when we stop resisting, we truly begin to listen. Have you ever done something good, expecting nothing in return, and months later, something wonderful happened to you? Have you ever treated someone badly, and without making the connection, you found yourself in a similar situation. When you do good, maybe the world won't applaud you right away, but the universe will take note. If you plant rose seeds, you won't harvest thorns. And if you plant hatred, you cannot expect to harvest love. In a quiet village, surrounded by rice fields and green hills, lived two men. Arun, a young and honest farmer, poor but happy, and Ravi, a cloth merchant, wealthy but restless, always watching what others had, always ready to judge. Arun was loved by everyone. He helped his neighbors, shared what little he had, and smiled even on rainy days. Ravi watched him from a distance, and though they had never spoken, he felt a deep irritation growing inside. Why do people admire him? He's just a poor man, with dirt on his hands. He deserves nothing. One day, while working in the fields, Arun found a small, shiny stone. It wasn't gold, but it looked special. He brought it to town, and a scholar told him it was a rare quartz. From that day, people began to say, "Arun has found good fortune. Even if it's not real wealth, it's a sign from the heavens." Ravi, consumed by envy, began to think cruel thoughts. "I should have found it. He's just a farmer. Let it fall into a well. No, let him fall in with it. Maybe then people will stop praising him." 2 days later, Ravi left early to sell his goods in a nearby village. He walked along a familiar path, but was distracted, lost in hateful thoughts. As he crossed a field, the ground beneath him gave way, a forgotten well, hidden among the weeds. Ravi fell. No one saw, no one heard him scream. He stayed there for hours, his leg hurt, his voice cracking with fear. Then, someone approached. It was Arun. He had heard a strange sound while passing by with his cart and stopped to check. When he saw Ravi in the well, he immediately lowered a rope and helped him out. Without a word, without asking anything. Ravi, hurt more in his pride than in his body, couldn't find the courage to look him in the eyes. He only whispered, "Why did you help me?" Arun replied, "Because the evil you wish for others will one day pull you in, but the good you do will always pull you out." Sometimes, just one bad thought is enough to dig a hole beneath your own feet, and when you fall, only those you treated with kindness will be willing to pull you out. Wish good for others, even when you're tempted by bitterness, because in life, the well you dig for others might become your own. This is karma. This is the law of nature. In a small village at the foot of the Bhutan mountains lived a young monk named Dorji. He was a reserved and peaceful soul. Most of his days were spent studying ancient scriptures and meditating. One day, a disturbing rumor spread through the village. A large tiger had been sighted nearby. The villagers, frightened, saw the animal as a threat to their peaceful lives. They began to talk about killing it to protect their families. When Dorji heard of these plans, he was deeply shaken. He believed that every living being had the right to life and respect. Despite the fear that gripped the village, he volunteered to find the tiger and guide it back to the wild without harming it. Armed only with courage and an immense respect for life, Dorji ventured deep into the forest. He walked for a long time, surrounded by the rustle of leaves and the distant songs of birds, until, in a clearing, he saw it. The tiger, upon seeing him, opened its mouth in a mighty roar. Its eyes shone with tension. It was not just a fierce beast, it was also a frightened creature, ready to attack in self-defense. Dorji did not step back. He approached slowly, his gaze calm. Then he bowed deeply to the tiger as a sign of respect. With a gentle smile, he spoke softly. "I am not here to harm you. You are free. Return to your home in the forest." To his surprise, the tiger's roar faded. Its breathing slowed, In its eyes appeared a glimmer of understanding. Then, as if they had recognized each other, Dorji and the tiger sat facing one another. They remained in silence for several minutes. Finally, the tiger stood up. It turned and without haste disappeared among the trees, returning to the jungle. From that day, it never came back to the village. When Dorji returned and shared his encounter, the villagers were astonished. They had expected he would use weapons and violence. Instead, he had shown courage and respect. The story of Dorji and the tiger spread quickly. It became a powerful lesson for the village and beyond. It reminded people that courage does not always mean fighting a threat, but sometimes means overcoming fear and showing respect to all living beings, even those seen as dangerous. Every living being, no matter its size or strength, deserves respect. We are all inhabitants of this planet. We should treat each other with kindness and reverence. Even the creatures we fear. Courage is more than strength. It does not always mean responding to threats with violence. It can mean facing your fears with dignity and respect. Dorji's courage was not in fighting the tiger, but in facing it and treating it with honor. Often, our fears and conflicts are born from misunderstanding. Through understanding and communication, we can resolve them and learn to coexist. Dorji showed this by communicating with the tiger and making it understand he was not a threat. Change begins with the individual.
We live in fast times. Everything moves quickly. News, messages, expectations. We're always connected, but often feel lost. There are days when you wake up with a weight on your chest, days when a single phone call changes your life, loss, failure, betrayal, and right in that moment, the mind begins to scream. It's over. You can't handle this. Why me? This is the story of Arjun, an ordinary man, stressful job, complicated relationship, a silent weight in his chest. He had it all under control, until one day he lost everything. His company collapsed. His partner left. His father got seriously ill. In 1 month, his whole world fell apart. One evening, Arjun walked alone in the rain. Soaked clothes, empty eyes. The city moved around him, but he couldn't see it anymore. Then, without knowing why, he got on a bus toward the mountains. He had heard of an old Zen master living in a small temple. Maybe he was searching for answers, or maybe just peace. He arrived the next day, said nothing, just sat in front of the master, trembling. The master looked at him and smiled, then said, "Tell me about your pain." Arjun spoke. The job, the loss, the anxiety, the fear, the racing thoughts, the feeling, I'm losing control. The master listened in silence, then stood up and gestured to follow him. They walked through a pine path to an old stone well. The master picked up a rock, threw it in the water and asked, "What do you see?" "The water is shaking, disturbed." The master nodded, then sat down. Now, we wait. Minutes of silence, just the wind in the trees. Slowly, the water became still. And now, the water is calm. I can see the bottom. The master smiled. This is your mind in pain. Every thought is like a stone, creating waves, confusion. But if you don't react, if you wait, if you breathe, the mind clears, and you can see again. Arjun said nothing. Tears rose, but this time they were clean, not of despair, but release. He stayed at the temple for a few days, not to escape, but to remember. That calm isn't weakness, it's power. Even when there's a storm outside, you can be still inside. Today, Arjun is back in the city. His life isn't perfect, but he has changed. When things fall apart, he doesn't panic, he doesn't run, he stops, he breathes, he waits. because he learned a simple truth. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can choose how you respond. And that choice changes everything.
This is the story of a temptation, an invisible choice, and a boy who discovered the true worth of an honest heart. Ravi was a young boy living in a remote village in northern India. He had lost his parents at a young age and lived with his grandmother in a small hut made of mud and straw. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, collected firewood from the riverbank, and worked in the village market for a few coins. He had never known luxury, but in his heart lived a simple dream: to earn honestly day by day and give his grandmother a better life. One cold winter morning, Ravi was walking a quiet path, lost in thought. Suddenly, he saw an old man sitting on a stone with 3 large cloth sacks tied with rope beside him. The old man looked weary, breathing heavily, coughing lightly. Ravi walked up to him. "Are you all right, sir?" he asked respectfully. The old man looked at him with deep eyes and said, "Son, my legs can no longer carry the weight of these sacks. I need to take them to the village, but I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" Ravi didn't hesitate. He was used to helping others without expecting anything in return. "Of course, sir, I'll gladly help you." Ravi lifted the first sack. It was unusually heavy. The cloth at the bottom was slightly torn. As he hoisted it onto his back, a small gold coin fell to the ground. Ravi picked it up. His eyes widened. He had never seen a gold coin in his life. His heart began to race. How is this possible? Such a poor-looking man with gold coins. A thought crept into his mind. What if I keep it? It's just one. Maybe he won't even notice. But Ravi handed it back immediately. "Sir, this fell." The old man took it silently. No words, just a look. Then Ravi lifted the second sack. It was just as heavy. As he adjusted it on his shoulders, his hand brushed the thin cloth. He peeked inside slightly and saw the warm golden glow of dozens of gold coins. A sudden thought struck like lightning. With just this one sack, I could change my life, buy a home, treat my grandmother, never work again. He kept walking, but inside, a battle had begun. Desire versus honesty. They reached halfway. The sun was high. The old man looked even more tired, but Ravi noticed something. The man was walking more confidently than before, almost as if he wasn't as weak as he seemed. Now it was time to carry the third sack, the heaviest. Ravi touched it. Inside, he felt not only coins, but jewels, necklaces, even gold bars. The temptation peaked. What if I run away? This man is old. He'll never catch me. No one would know. It would be my secret. He stopped. Cold sweat dripped down his back, even though it wasn't hot. He sat down, looked up at the sky, then he stood. That's not how I was raised. Stealing is stealing, even when no one sees. My dignity is worth more than any treasure. And so, he kept walking, carrying all 3 sacks. They reached a small abandoned temple on the edge of the village. The old man stopped, turned around, and smiled. His voice, once weak, was now clear and strong. "You've passed the test, Ravi." Ravi looked confused. "What test?" The old man laughed. He removed his fake beard and turban. He wasn't poor at all. He was one of the wealthiest merchants in the region, known for secretly testing young people's honesty. "Many before you have carried these sacks. Some ran away. But not you. You struggled within. But you chose the right path." Then he pointed to the heaviest sack. "This one is yours." Life tests you in the most ordinary moments. when no one is watching, when you have the chance to do wrong, but you choose what's right. Honesty isn't just a principle, it's a choice that builds your future brick by brick. Ravi returned to the village with just one sack, but in truth, he carried something far more precious, the strength of staying true to himself. And you? What would you have done in Ravi's place? Would you have resisted temptation? Tell us in the comments. If this story touched your heart, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Because every week we share stories that help you grow from the inside out.